There's a 45-minute montage at my funeral. Like, it's long, and it's one of 2 movies. And I can stay connected to people not caring about the 45 minutes that play because of me having wasted the rest of my life. Because I just don't have this, like, my wife happens to have a furnace of motivation burning inside of her every day. And I don't relate to it. I can't connect to it. And so when I wake up in the morning and I don't want to do it, I have to stay connected to wanting to have the movie play the right thing. I had this opportunity to take a few days to just get clear. And it was right around the new year. And I went back and thought of every time in the last 2 years, 5 years, that I was at a low point. And I wanted to try and find the common denominator of what it was at that low point so that I could, every time it maybe started to present itself, keep it from happening. And I found that there was unbelievable consistency in each of my low points, and that is, I had either proclaimed to myself, my family, my employees, or the world that I was a certain thing, and then I showed up as something that was disconnected from that thing. And the dissonance between who I said I was and who I knew myself to be in the privacy of my own head as my head hit the pillow, that dissonance was pain, was shame, was unfulfilled potential and regret. And so I am on a mission to close that gap. Like, every day my alarm goes off, it is an if-then statement, right? If you say that you want to be this thing, if you are legitimate in your claim that this is who you are now, then you better get your ass out of bed, get your shoes on, and get out in that garage gym. It's 2 things, right? So it's, on the one hand, in just incredible consistency. Like, the habits that we have, the morning routine that we have, it is non-negotiable. It starts at 9 p.m. the night before. Like, my morning routine starts at 9 p.m., right? If I want the life I say I want, then I have to be asleep by 9 p.m. because I have to be up by 5. And if I don't get sleep, I can't have 2 o'clock in the afternoon happening the way I want. So it starts at 9, and I have a meticulous routine that when my alarm goes off, I am a cyborg. It's not, there's no conversation, there's no snooze. I walk immediately to the exact same place every day because that's where my shoes are and my workout stuff is. I move from there immediately to where the green juice is, immediately from there to where the produce is. Like, I just go in a very much like methodical, beat by beat, step by step routine. But the second thing is, I am perpetually trying to find something physically that I can push myself further through to show myself that I am capable of more than I believed I was capable of. And this has become a newer hack over the last couple of years as I've truly tried to be my own catalyst for the momentum I want in my life. For the last 6 ascents, I mean, like, the better part of half a day, I did one thing. In through the nose, I said the word stronger. Out through the mouth, I said the word better. I had ski poles, and that is the only thing I did. I became a robot walking up that hill. I said stronger, as in this step, I am becoming a stronger human being. I then said better, I will be better for having completed this challenge. I said it so many times, I got the words tattooed right here on my arms.
Whoa.
Because I needed a reminder that when I face a challenge that feels mentally more challenging than I believe is possible for me to complete, or physically beyond the limits of my capacity, that I am stronger and will become better for having endured whatever that thing is. I used it in completing my first marathon. I will use it as I am getting ready to do my first Ironman. I'm not looking for, like, the 100-mile race necessarily yet.
We'll see.
Right?
I was gonna say,
but, I mean, here's the thing.
the rate you're going.
Yeah, right? And the headline is, I came into the idea of pushing myself physically with some limiting beliefs around what was possible for someone with my frame. That I'm too tall to run was a story that had been told to me for years and years of my life. I didn't run a single mile until I was 36 years old.
Whoa.
1 single mile. And in this last year, I've run 1,000 miles. So
Literally.
it's literally 1,000 miles on the road. And so it's just, you know, if there's something in a story that was given to you through the lens of someone else's fear, you have to test the hypothesis of your truth. I mean, like, it began for me, honestly, in the midst of being stuck. I sat on a couch across from a stranger in therapy as a vehicle for my more pragmatically wired brain to understand why, right? I want to understand why I do the things I do. And sitting with a therapist was a way for me to get a set of answers to my behavior, because it was not something that was living on my conscious level. It was in my subconscious, and through a lot of verbal processing, a little bit of journaling, and sitting in front of a stranger who would listen, all of a sudden some of the whys start to show up. I walked into therapy thinking it was for broken people. And at the time, because of my station, I was stuck. So I was comfortable saying, all right, as a stuck person, maybe I'm broken. What I realize is none of us are broken. We have seasons of brokenness, but aren't broken. And that therapy, as much as I may have entered it with a negative stigma attached to it, it was a gift, not just for people who are experiencing a season of brokenness, but for full and whole people that are interested in having a fuller, bigger version of their life. It was truly, though, for me, this pursuit of like finding answers. I was really interested in why. I feel like I am stuck, though, to the outside world as the president of distribution at the Walt Disney Company, as the father of 3 healthy children, as the husband to an amazing woman who has this house and car. And I mean, like, the optics, they're good. And yet the feeling inside was bad. And the lack of congruence in this instance of me feeling the way I thought I ought to gave permission to sitting inside of a space that I'd previously assigned some kind of negativity. Once I sat in the seat, forget it. It was beautiful. It was a gift. And if anyone has any reservations at all to therapy, here's the headline. It's gonna be hard when you first get in there because you're dealing with a bunch of stuff that you don't want to have to deal with. But once you push past the first 6 weeks of time, it is like writing in a journal where you are dealing with the conscious thoughts for the first 20 minutes. But if you write in a journal for an hour, the things that come up in the 30th minute and the 50th minute are things you didn't even know existed. But a lot of times people won't let themselves get past the 15th minute. They get bored. Oh, there's all this stuff I already know. For me, it was a lot more of I feel statements, I feel like, and then I was able to ask, is that feeling real, or is that a byproduct of some memory? Is it a byproduct of some way I had to be when I was young? And the prompts that I would get are the same that you might get in a personal development kind of setting where you're being asked, my first personal development conference, same kind of question of who did you have to be when you were young, and whose love did you crave, and who'd you have to be for that? Like those kind of questions, as you start following those threads, you realize, oh, I've been achieving all of these years for the affection of this person, and it's like imprinted on me in a way that makes me believe that the only way love will show up in my life is through me achieving for that love. And whatever version of that is for you, if you had to be a certain way as a younger person, or you've had relationships that went sideways and you, in the bad experience of that relationship, took something and had it sink in as a truth that was not actually true, it informs a little bit of what you now take on as a part of your self-identity. And the opportunity in that therapy, or the opportunity in journaling, at least for me, is to pull those things to my consciousness and actually ask if there's truth and weight to them in a way that if they live underneath just sit as fear, insecurity, and ridiculousness a lot of times. I'll be honest, like I would be triggered by someone saying something and I'd grab a drink to mute a little bit of the insecurity. It sometimes could provoke an imposter syndrome. It could provoke all kinds of things, and I would grab a drink. I've tended now to run because my process of being out on the road for a length of time is giving me the benefit of time. Like truly taking time before I have a reaction has been singularly the most important thing. But 2, there's something therapeutic about the way that my body moving in nature outside with that run allows me to actually think through, is this real or is this imagined? Is this real? is the number one question for me to ask. And 99 times out of 100, it is not real. Like, this person has a problem with me. Okay, is their opinion something that really deserves a front row seat in my life? And if there are people with cheap seat tickets that I am affording front row seat opinions, that's a me problem. Sometimes it's a run, but sometimes it's just asking that question. Does this really matter? Is this fear, is this opinion real? And if the answer ends up being no, does it still sting? Does it still hurt? Yes. But if you can take a beat and actually deconstruct it, you tend to get freer faster. I, in an interesting way, knew intellectually that the thing I needed was a thing that would be uncomfortable. I was given the gift of really understanding the connection between growth and fulfillment. And I had not previously had my finger on the pulse of that. I was the beneficiary at Disney of unbelievable job growth over time. The first 10 years, I had 10 jobs. So my professional ADD was satisfied on an annual basis. I was perpetually drinking from a fire hydrant. And what I didn't realize was my fulfillment was about always being uncomfortable. I was walking into a room of people to whom they themselves thought they were more qualified for my job. I was asking a lot of questions and learning a lot on an every single hour basis. And when I found myself in this job for what ended up being 7 years, the first 3 years were the steepest learning curve I could have ever asked for. Those first 3 years happened to also be the height of me being fulfilled. And it wasn't until I sat in therapy, it wasn't until I went to a personal development conference, it wasn't until I started reading some books that I could actually put my finger on it. Oh, you are unhappy and unfulfilled because you are not in a position where you are being challenged. And in the absence of you being challenged, it's impossible for you to be fulfilled. If you are in a position where you can't fail, you are also in a position where you will never be fulfilled. And so when I finally figured that out, it was, okay, I need to go chase something that I can fail at. Not to fail, but because of the possibility of failure, guaranteeing that I will and I will grow from it. As much as I knew that intellectually, I make this leap. I leave what I knew for what I needed. And in doing so, dealt with the identity shift challenges, dealt with going from being the primary breadwinner to my wife just wildly eclipsing me, went from the status of a big company and a nice business card to something of more of a startup. And it was so jarring to everything that I knew that what had been a casual relationship with alcohol turned into a not so casual relationship with alcohol. And I was having drinks to just smooth the rough edges after a long day. And what I didn't realize as a couple of drinks was turning into more than a couple of drinks was that you cannot mute the anxiety without also muting the joy. Alcohol is not a local anesthetic, right? You can't just take care of the problem without also taking care of any of the good. And so while I knew intellectually that, yep, I'm pursuing discomfort for growth, I was muting the discomfort, which meant I was also eliminating in drinking the chance for me to grow, which was the entire reason for me doing this big shift in my life in the first place. When I decided to write the book, the edits coming back on the book, as the team grows from 5 to 60, as my wife and I are working together for the first time figuring it out, as we're starting new things in this business that are wholly and totally outside of my discipline, my competency set, I, in stacking those things, had a troubling time with alcohol. And my wife, one of the best and worst things about her is the ability for her to be unbelievably direct. And we had a hard conversation about what the heck I'm actually doing. And so I've decided on that day, I am not going to have a drink for a year because I committed to the discomfort as a thing that I needed for growth, and the responsibility that comes with this job, with my relationship to my wife, with what my kids deserve, is that I am sober enough to actually both experience the pain of all of this growing and the identity stuff and everything else, but also show up well for them. And so I had to identify the triggers, where do they come from, and every time one showed up, replace the routine, grabbing a drink with putting on shoes. And as evidenced by the 1,000 miles, The stresses don't go down even when you introduce new and better coping mechanisms. The stress is all there all the time. I've just changed the way I think about failure in this business as being a part of what comes with running a small business, and running as a thing that helps me process what basically ends up being failure happening on an every 2 or 3 hours basis. I want to help people appreciate this idea that they have to leave the harbor of safety and security for the opportunity to grow. I mean, I'm crazy.
I was gonna say, it
right?
reminds me of a certain tattoo.
Right, I'm crazy about it. I got this tattoo, a ship is safe in harbor, but that's not what ships were built for. I got it as a promise to my wife that I wouldn't find myself back in that place where I was stuck, clinging to things that were safe, anchored to the harbor, not chasing the choppy waters for the opportunity to grow. I got it as a reminder for my kids that the only way that they will be fulfilled is to push themselves outside of their comfort zone and do things that challenge them to chase failure to fail, so that in failure they will actually grow. And I got it more than anything as a reminder for myself, because I still wake up plenty of days unsure if I can be the captain of this ship on these choppy waters, and I have to remind myself that I will.